Hello. Hi. My name is Saheed Lasisi, and I work with JP Morgan Chase in London as a principal API architect. And today I'm presenting to you applied AI in API architecture. And we'll be posing the question, can AI replace the API architect? And this is the presentation for API Days London, September 2024. Okay, so what's the agenda for today? The agenda for today is us taking you through APIs and AI at the forefront of business transformation, and then how that business transformation using APIs and AIs is actually being designed and architected by an API architect. And we'll also be looking at how Gen AI has actually changed the space and how Gen AI is becoming a digital artist that is actually generating content and intelligent distributions and deliveries within the API ecosystem. We will be taking a look at what role Gen AI is playing in API architecture. We will also be playing the role of APIs in AI architecture, and also be looking at current challenges that Gen AI actually poses to API management. And then we'll also be looking at um, how the AI architect can replace the API architect. And that'll be fun to see that. And let's go. Okay, so APIs and AIs are at the forefront of business transformation. They gradually are becoming an existential feature of every business. They form the backbones of innovation, enabling seamless integration between different systems. Different businesses are actually powered by APIs. And today, with AIs, different AI agents and tools helping different businesses are being powered by APIs through the interconnected systems as well. When we talk about agentic systems also that are actually coming to the fore where AI is communicating with each other, we are seeing that this is also been done through APIs. And the fusion of AIs and APIs commoditizes AI for everyday businesses, for people as well, and for different spheres of life. And as such, AI actually is becoming the innovation that solves business problems, and at the same time, leveraging APIs to get that delivered to humans, then enmeshing it as part of the fabric of everyday business. Apart from that, AIs and APIs are now keys to unlocking a different set of innovative ideas within the industry itself. And also, AIs and APIs are actually providing a catalyst for transformation on how people actually do things internally. People are now saying that there is an opportunity to transform their internal workflows, their institutional knowledge, how they collect information, the validity of knowledge itself, as they are actually trying to be AI ready or embrace AI, and at the same time embrace an API first strategy. And as such, this is actually now the new realm of pushing people to an innovative future. So, having said all that, who is an API architect? So an API architect is a what I call it, someone, an architect that wears several hats. So on one side, he wears the hat of a software architect that designs whatever robust and resilient software, quality software. But also apart from that, um, takes into account the value of the API first strategy or the API design first strategy, designs proper APIs, designs first, for example, establishes contract before actually then going into implementation, perform API reviews, architects the end-to-end solution, and then also has an eye for data modeling and ensures that whatever data models that is actually crafted can actually work along different channels. So different channels, different API channels, be it events, be it REST, async, be it gRPC, for example, or just remote procedural calls from different channels that are actually interconnected, then this is the man for you or the woman for you. Also, it plays a role in management and strategy, the roadmap, crafting requirements, solicitation, managing stakeholders, communicating is also some of the things that an API architect does. An API architect also has an eye for technical writing as well, because it's part of the whole idea of being an API architect also is to craft patterns, blueprints, guidelines, and also talking to or writing blogs, for example, communicating frequently and doing research. And apart from that, in terms of innovation and development, an API architect also um, gets his hand dirty writing different tools or curating a strategy for how tools, API tools evolve within his organization, advocating for APIs internally and externally, identifying trends in society, developing proof of concepts, contributing to open source tooling, for example, and performing risk assessments and legal assessments, getting to know what's around the state of the art in terms of APIs and regulations around different open API strategies. And apart from that, building paved roads and frameworks for orders to reuse and to kind of like stop redundancy or reduce redundancy across the organization. So making the entire API ecosystem efficient. And that is the API architect. And you can see from what we talked about here that the API architect actually has a very broad skill set. And also it means that going forward, the API architect needs to actually be abreast of several things happening at the same time, and also requires lifelong learning. So Gen AI. So generative AI is just why we're talking about generative AI. Probably that's the first thing to ask. The reason why we're talking about generative AI today is because Gen AI presents a revolution within AI itself, to the extent where previously people have used AI within research labs, within different companies as intellectual property, and probably the best people have used it for was assignments, for example, using it to write better letters and all this kind of stuff, or using it to write better essays, for example. But with the advent of chat gpt, the idea was that people can now actually interact with AI every day. And as such, it changed how people viewed AI. AI became the digital artists for people, right? You give it something, you ask it a question, you poke it for something, and it gives you a result out of that. It generates the content real time also. And as such, it becomes your digital artist actually generating new content for you based on what you've asked it, based on what it already knows, and then what it has learned, and to the extent at which it has validated whatever it just learned, and it provides output based on that. And also, it's smart enough to kind of like learn patterns, structures, and relationships, and as such, it's able to actually use that knowledge or that body of knowledge to create new original outputs. And the good thing about the way large language models and Gen AI has been delivered, it also knows the world. So it means that it knows the basics of the world itself previously. So which means that you don't have to teach it like things like currency, things like countries. It has all those reference data of how the world works in the first place. And as such, it's not just a child. So it has degree level or PhD level for some AI tools, education, and it knows the world as well. And that combination itself means that you don't have to start from the scratch all the time when you're actually interacting with it. But as time goes on, you could then tilt it to the direction of travel that you want to take it. But it means that there is room for creativity to create content based on the knowledge that you've actually embedded in AI tools. It's able to also see patterns within that knowledge itself and be able to recognize it, build relationships, and create an experience out of that. And finally, it's able to create unique digital artworks for you based on that knowledge base that it has been curated with. So let's talk about how AI is impacting API architecture. So applied AI in API architecture is what I want to talk about now. AI is empowering everyone within the API ecosystem, starting from people with a very little knowledge about API. So from a learning point of view, with the advent of chat tools, we are the Q&A tools, AI tools, people are learning more about APIs, learning more about the best practices of APIs because the knowledge is out there. And this chat AI tools have been able to help people to get there. But apart from that, AI has been leveraged in validating API specifications. It's been leveraged in what we call linting, which is real time real-time validation of your API specs while you at design time, for example. So that is happening as well. And AI is also part of several pipelines and delivery tooling that actually helps people to deliver better APIs. AI is used in technical documentation these days, and it's working really well in that area, for example, even though there are dependencies on the reference data. And also, it means that there is a shift from some repetitive work that can actually be rendered or, let me say, generated by GenAI, for example, and people can do probably more interesting work rather than doing some repetitive work, for example. Other than that, AI also is helping in the areas of integration. So, autonomous integration is a part of it where for providing certain knowledge to AI, it could actually then take that particular information that it has at real time and be able to actually perform an integration between two systems or orchestration, for example. So those are the places we are seeing AI actually help API architecture a lot. And apart from that, it in terms of the human itself, the person performing the job of uh, API architecture, it actually amplifies the person's capability, such as while developing, while designing an API, you could actually see how you could code that without having to code it because you could actually just point your AI tool to that particular API spec to see how well does it look. I mean, how well can it generate good code, or let me say good designs, for example. So and vice versa. Apart from that, to some extent, when someone is an expert, AI assistance is actually um, advanced, which means that people don't need day-to-day charts or they don't need day-to-day. They use AIs differently, which means that probably they are now embedding knowledge into AI. For example, they're embedding their guidelines, their blueprints. They've got the the ability to actually do that, and apart from that, they have the necessary levels of approvals to actually embed use cases into their AI system. When there is an intermediate API architect, AI actually supports them growing their expertise, which means they're learning as they go as well, learning the different ways of doing things right, or probably doing things right and validating with AI, or amplifying how they do their day-to-day work with AI. And entry-level architects are most dependent on AI because probably it's their go-to assistant at every point in time. And then and that is how the dependency actually go. But as I said, AI is helping everybody within the API architecture um, practice. So apart from everything we've said, there are other areas that AI is helping. It's helping in requirements gathering, it's helping in templates, and I was helping in requirements gathering. AI helps in requirement gathering in the sense that even when people collect requirements, it can show you the gaps that is left within that requirement itself. It can help augment it if you actually know what you were looking for in the first place, or probably it could actually help in posing the right questions for a different iteration of that requirements elicitation or gathering. In terms of templates, AI is leveraging a body of knowledge to actually extract commonality and provide templates of actually doing it again. So in terms of API designs. In terms of design work itself, there are different AI tools out there that actually helps in terms of productivity. So where I see AI actually work best is productivity in terms of code snippets, best practices, injection, I would say snippet injection, for example, AI LinkedIn, for example generation, and so on and so forth. In documentation, AI is actually helping giving a what do you call it? Giving an API spec with certain descriptions and giving multiple API specs actually, and providing some contract that actually embodies all that. For example, the arousal specification, AI is now able to leverage all those body of knowledge to actually write better documentation, because it's not just writing documentation for a single API. It's assuming no API really exists on its own, and it can actually leverage the connection between these different APIs and orchestrate the workflow for somebody who is willing to write it, or somebody who is willing to actually take a walkthrough of how an API works. In terms of legacy backends and modernization, there are different AI tools that monitor traffic and or that are provided traffic data, are provided requests and responses, are provided exceptions from all these legacy backend systems. And based on that, it's able to walk back how an human would do it, actually, how you would actually look at the behavior of an existing application and reverse engineer it to become a modern application. So, and it's also able to extract knowledge based on that as well. So, where we could have spent a whole lot of years trying to extract knowledge or trying to transform a legacy application, some AI tools are out there that can actually help do some of the groundwork in extracting those knowledge, extracting that behavior that we can then use in transforming those legacy backends into a modern system based on that. And also, it's also used in actually just reading code, because these tools are actually good at reading predefined and deterministic code. In terms of security, it goes both ways, as AI is helping to actually secure APIs in real time, at design time, at build time. It's also actually exposing APIs to risk as well, because people are now able to hack APIs with different AI tools as well, because they can think on the fly. They make hackers and adverse agents more powerful as well. It amplifies a skill set as well. So we've already spoken about orchestrations, about blueprints, autonomous agents. Software contributions is also an area that AI can help to perform proactive remediation of bugs, for example. Testing is an area also that AI can help based on validated and validated and good body of knowledge, without some blueprints on how testing is done, without some valid knowledge, some valid behavioral artifacts. It is impossible to use AI to leverage good testing, because it's as bad as having bad requirements for humans to actually test against. Code generation is also an area that AI is helping as well, because you do not need static code generators for every programming language out there and for every use case, or probably for every version of an API. And being the nature of AI just being versatile and being able to kind of like generate new content at all the time, means that we don't have to write new code or generate new SDKs statically all the time, based on certain templates, based on certain knowledge that we've been able to embed into the AI tool, and based on certain patterns that we also use. We can actually use Gen AI, for example, to generate code. And also the same thing goes for data modeling, API operations, process optimizations within the API lifecycle itself, and automating different things within the lifecycle that is repetitive, or probably that are versatile, or probably some things coming that are redundant that we have to do. But that adaptability within the API lifecycle itself is whatever is static. The good thing about Genia is that it's able to produce something on the fly for us without having to actually code to improve our lifecycle delivery automation pipeline for an API. Same thing for observability. AI tools now observe APIs, and based on that can perform different tasks, and can even communicate with other AI tools. And faster onboarding is something that AI tools recently have now been able to help different developers with, to actually onboard to APIs, and probably to write better onboarding steps based on different information that they now have, different body of knowledge itself. API governance is getting better with AI tooling, and above all, productivity and developer experience is improving generally a lot using AI or leveraging AI. Applied API in AI architecture. APIs are now becoming the abstraction layer of for AI services and integration. And every different AI agents also are leveraging APIs to talk to each other. And humans are indirectly actually chatting with APIs, chatting through APIs to the AI tooling or the AI platforms that we have. But more than that as well, what has happened as well is that based on different AI API governance concepts and constructs around already, it means that by exposing AI through APIs, we can now use the same governance processes and guardrails that are there to observe AI traffic and use that to actually control and protect. So, as you can see, Gartner actually estimates that by 2026, more than 80% of enterprises will have used generative AI APIs or models and deploy Gen AI enabled applications in production environments. And it is true, but it is also directly or indirectly, directly in the sense that they will use generative AI APIs to provide certain services to the outside world, to people or to people that consume their businesses. On the other hand, what they would have done also is use Gen AI enabled applications to speed up their internal workflows or to speed up their onboarding workflows, for example, or to speed up certain repetitive processes within their life cycle itself. And as such, 80% of all of these tools would have leveraged AI one way or the other because AI tools would actually be exposed using APIs rather than the previous ways of, or let me see, the traditional ways of actually exposing or consuming data and providing outputs based on AI. So, and the fact is that AI services will not be reachable if not exposed by APIs. And that is true because it will just be used by the people that use it through probably data science pipelines or through some big data flow, for example, and that will be how it's used. But APIs are changing the way AI is being consumed, and it can be scaled at a level at which it's not imagined today if used via APIs. At the same time, means that the different regulatory rules that are coming in, and also like security and observability for responsible AI, using APIs means that we could actually monitor what is happening, the traffic, and being able to then use different API governance rules to actually adjust how the services are provided. And GenAI currently in the different areas of API architecture has some challenges in terms of the quality of data or how it provides outputs, right? One of the things that's been seen so far is code quality and reliability, right? So AI generated code. So people use different programming languages, and the fact is that all different AI tools or AI models are not good at generating code for all these different languages. Some are stronger in some languages, some are actually stronger in generating code itself, and some are bad at generating code. And there is a risk of introducing bugs if those AI models are not really specific, or probably code generation itself isn't their specialty. They could actually be generating code that are worse than human implementation itself. And also, some AI tools do generate bugs, as we've seen, in vulnerabilities, and marking them as vulnerable doesn't help as well because you then put the choice into the hands of somebody consuming that code to either run vulnerable code or not, for example. And contextual understanding. So what has happened so far, be it open API or just code generally, what has been seen so far is given a vanilla AI tool out there without actually embedding some specific knowledge into it, it does actually struggle with complex business logic, architectural decisions, goals, for example, and all these nuances are where an architect can actually reason better because humans understand humans understand complexity, humans are able to think out of the box and be able to use that to adapt things. But it is hard for AI tools to understand all that, to then use that as a basis of making decisions to provide output for any problem itself. And edge cases and ambiguity is something more, because when there is a direct choice to make between one edge case and the other, for example, it becomes a struggle for an AI tool to understand. And also, if you have patterns, irregular patterns within within an organization, so that there is no consistent way of making decisions. And even though we have provided that those APIs, those information, as a human, you could actually say that most of the time the wrong decisions were made based on certain reasons, but it is not what I call it. It is not the right thing to do in making those decisions anyway. But probably the AI cannot read into that, why the wrong decisions are always made all the time, and certain constraints take priority over some things, be it safety, security, or be it budget, for example, business goals, and so on and so forth. And those are the kind of things that, when things really become ambiguous, the API architect actually wins, because you do need some human intervention and intuition to clarify what is needed for those edge cases. Performance of resource usage. Gen AI models are resource intensive in generating anything, code, specifications, design, whatever it is. They are computationally expensive, they are performance expensive, resource expensive. So that is also something, because all that actually impacts cost. And that is something everybody has to think about. And apart from that, AIs can actually, people can end up being worse off using Gen AI, simply because when there is actually a speciality that requires institutional knowledge, and if uh, an organization is not ready to actually consume those institutional knowledge because they don't have valid knowledge bases, the problem is that it will be garbage in, garbage out. The AI is just going to produce information that are not verified, that are not valid, and probably they will be worse off, because the quality of the content they'll be producing will just be as worse as them producing it. Whereas for organizations, or let me say enterprises with quality knowledge bases, with quality guidelines, with that do things right, that actually forms their institutional knowledge, for example, and practices that actually embodies that, they can actually then use AI to amplify what they provide and accelerate, be it their market reach, their competitive advantage, or whatever it is, right? And be able to provide quality content out of that, simply because they do a lot of things right. So there is probably the benefit of these challenges, is that people can actually simplify things, can solidify their knowledge bases, can make it verifiable, can make it valid in the first place, can also make them evolve, can keep their knowledge bases versions, so that they have new versions of things that are probably not valid today. And as such, Gen AI can actually make better decisions, better content, better outputs for them. And there are ethical concerns, quality control, as we've spoken about, vast data requirements, because you do need better institutional knowledge. And then there's also regulatory bottlenecks here and there, where you actually need to provide probably stamp that things that you produce out there was generated by AI, and abiding by that also presents a challenge there, because probably people wouldn't trust the fact that you produced some content using AI and not yourself. And can AI replace the API architect? Not really, because from what we've seen so far during this presentation, we can establish that AI can actually, or Gen AI, LLMs can make an API architect or a software architect more productive, can amplify the what call it, probably the upper echelon of architects delivery and their productivity also. It also augments their creativity, and then They are also able to probably use it to generate novel problems, or kind of like use their unconventional wisdom to challenge AI, for example. And then also probably in terms of business alignment, strategy, vision, and problem solving, they are able to then use AI holistically. And we've come to the end of this presentation. Thank you for tuning in. And this is the presentation for API Days London 2024, September 24. I'm Saheed Lasisi, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.